everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this week for When I Grow Up. Today on our episode, I'm excited to invite our guest who is a teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. His name is David Song. David, thanks so much for being with us today and taking some time out to talk to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm fully grown up, but I'm going to try to give the best answers that I can.
No, I guess, at heart, a lot of us are still kids, and I'm thankful that you're here, that we can hear your perspective on being a teacher.
Absolutely.
And so let me ask you, what kind of teacher are you? Where do you teach, and how long have you been doing this? And what subject do you teach? Things like that.
Sure. So hard to believe, but this is year 13 of
That's
teaching.
crazy.
It is. 13 years have gone by extremely quickly. When I was I've actually been working at the same school. So I work in a,
Oh, no kidding.
yeah,
That's
so,
awesome.
which is, thinking back now, I've been very fortunate, extremely fortunate. Just the people I've worked with, the families, the community. So that in itself, I've just been very fortunate with. I've worked in a Christian private school for 13 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
you're looking at, it's a smaller school. Like I grew up, graduating with almost 1,000 kids in my graduating class,
Uh-huh.
right, in a public school. And the school I'm teaching at, you're looking around 120 students per graduating class.
Oh,
So
wow.
in that, when thinking about that, it was a very different culture for me. Going into a classroom, I had 12 students on average in my class,
Oh, wow.
and I was hired to teach 10th and 11th grade math. So you're looking at algebra 2, geometry. I had a couple classes of trig. I did that for 6 years, which was a lot of fun. I would say those years I focused a lot on test results. You're looking at end of course tests, you're looking at SAT, you're looking
Okay.
at ACT. So it's just the reality when you get to that point, any kid that is around that age of 15, 16,
Right.
you're thinking about the future heavily.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're, wondering like how much work do I need to do to get to a certain point and reach certain goals. So talking with kids about goals, like I want to go all the way, I want to strive for, the best schools in the country, and
Yeah.
you make those kind of things happen with those families. And then after 6 years, thankfully, I've worked with really great administration. So they approached me, and they were asking me, how do you feel about working with middle school students? And, in my mind, middle school, like my experience,
Uh-huh.
it was tough. I
Yeah,
felt
me
like
too.
those years, you're thinking about 12, 13, 14, even 15. There's a lot of things that go on just
Yeah,
developmentally,
definitely.
physically and emotionally. So I was apprehensive, really apprehensive at first because I liked having, building relationship with, kids and teens that were kind of almost adults, so you could
Mm-hmm.
have kind of adultish conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking like, okay, I don't want to, teach kids
Yeah.
where I feel like I'm gonna have to micromanage and things of that nature.
Yes.
And now it's been 6 years after. It's one of the best decisions I ever made.
No
And
kidding.
it's
Really?
so I've been teaching eighth grade and seventh grade. I did eighth grade 3 years, and then this is third year finishing up with seventh grade. So you know, like I said, my intuition and just thinking this is going to be a completely different world was accurate.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But kids that age are so amazing in so many ways. So their energy, their just willingness to just they're not sure of a lot of things. So they just kind of they don't know what to rely upon a lot of times. So
Interesting.
they need so
Okay.
much guidance and they
Mm,
need so much direction.
yeah.
And the opportunity to have that is such an amazing blessing. That's why I love it.
I mean, I mean, yes, I would imagine compared to high schoolers too, especially when they're thinking about their futures, SATs and things like that. It's like
Right,
their goals are already set, but in eighth and seventh grade, it's like, okay, what can I do next? Like, what's going to
right,
happen and things like that.
right.
Wow. So you're enjoying your middle school students then during
I,
this time.
I am. I will say that you need a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You need a lot. You gotta bring it every single day to school in the sense that they have so much energy and they're so ready. and they're so like they don't know. So the energy that you bring, they're gonna reciprocate. So in that sense, you want them to bring that same energy and everything that they are willing and able to do. So that just steps up my game.
Yeah.
And I feel like in that sense, it's like they'll never know that they've given me so much. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No,
So the
definitely.
fulfillment there is unreal. It's amazing.
So just this thought came to my mind. Do you think the classroom size and, just being in a private Christian school, does that change, you think, how students are active and more motivated? Because I'm thinking back to my public school years as a middle
Sure.
school student, and I don't really remember being that engaged, if I'm honest.
Yeah, me too.
Um, but do you
Yeah.
think that environment changes a student's like just outlook and perspective on what they're doing, what they're focusing on subject wise, or just studying in general?
No, no doubt. That's a really good question. So, I've had opportunities in the summer and just even before I started teaching there,
Mm-hmm.
I taught in a public school, just in
Mm-hmm.
the
Hmm.
sense of my student teaching and finishing up my certifications and whatnot.
Right.
And I was in a completely different environment. So, when you're teaching 30 to 35 students, in a public school setting, it doesn't matter what the school setting is, there's a lot more management as well as, other, other challenges that might come.
Right.
Now, what I would say is that my style, I guess, you know, either it would be the same way, either, I'd be teaching at my school or a different school is it's just very straightforward.
Yes.
I just kind of get down to business. Like if you ask my kids in the beginning, they were just like, you know, it was hard to understand who I was in a sense because,
Mm.
I'm just very like straightforward. Like these are my expectations, and I would
Okay.
smile a lot, but at the same time, the expectations are very high.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
I can see that.
right, so it doesn't matter which setting. It's just to answer your question, I would say that it does differ, but it's still adult to teach, adult
I
to
see.
students,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
within that age. So different styles are going to result maybe in different reactions and different ways the students are going to maybe behave.
Yes.
Because, I'll talk to my colleagues and they'll say this student acts this way in my class, but it's different in my class. It just really depends
Oh,
dynamic
okay.
wise. It could be even just gender or just, the
Yeah,
relationships within the hallway and such. So,
definitely,
um,
definitely.
yeah.
So I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I
Yeah,
want to hear
sure.
more about your day
Yeah,
and things like that. But I do want to know also, so why teaching? Like, when did you
sure.
decide this in your life that you wanted to be a teacher?
I would say first and foremost, my mom, because you said you knew my brother, my mom,
Hmm.
a huge influence on my brother and I.
Mm.
So she would tell us, you know, my brother Andrew, he's like, Andrew, you're gonna become a pastor. She used to tell us that when we were kids.
Mm.
And we're just
Really?
like, what?
Just so for people that don't know, Andrew is now a pastor.
Sure. Which is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And my mom was a teacher in Korea before she came here, and she told me, because I guess I'm the older one or whatnot, that you're gonna become a teacher. So I felt like that truly kind of propelled me, whether she was, molding me as we were growing up, like I'm gonna try to teach you and try to give you skills and just, almost set you up in a way where, I want you to become a teacher and hopefully you make that decision. I don't know. But I felt like her influence growing up was so powerful to
Wow.
where I trusted her. And
Hmm.
obviously, she's my mother, so everything she says to me is like gonna be spot on.
Yeah.
So then when I got to school, I had to make a decision, and it was a tough decision to where, I felt like I was really strong with numbers to where I could have gone in a direction to, you know, I guess financially, follow
Hmm.
that direction and use numbers in that way. Or I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like my mom, and you always think I don't want to disappoint my parents. That's how we want to live up to our parents' expectations. So I felt like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see
Mm.
what happens. And, there was a program in the summer while I was in school,
Hmm.
and I got opportunity to teach. And this was underprivileged school,
Okay.
in the city. And it was amazing. I felt like, my heart was just leaning towards that direction of working with young people. And I think those experiences
Mm.
that you have, no matter what age you are in, are going to affect you to the point where, okay, this just feels right. And for me, during those years around like 18, 19, that just felt like, okay, I have to see what happens with this because it's feeling very like this is where I think I can actually do well in. But not
Uh-huh.
only that, I feel like God is kind of pushing me in that way.
Wow.
And, there was a lot of times when I felt like, okay, God's kind of pushing me, but I'm gonna maybe, just kind of be hesitant and
Hmm.
reluctant. But this one, I kind of had to just go through,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
from there, I just didn't look back. Too many experiences within my classes and the professors that I met while in school. Some of the people that I actually were in classes with, I still speak to this day because they're still teaching.
Oh,
So
wow.
some of those relationships are so strong
Yeah.
that it's just one of those things. The camaraderie and the bond that we have built, like it was kind of meant to be.
Yeah.
So I mean, things don't always work out, obviously,
Hmm.
but for me, in the sense of right now, at least in my life,
Hmm.
teaching that God has definitely guided me in the right direction for there.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's amazing. You were saying that when you did that in that program in the
hmm
summer, you had mentioned that it was amazing,
right,
right? So something kind of clicked for you during that
sure.
time, I guess. Do you recall what it was or the experience it was that was so amazing that you were like, I think this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so I was, this is just a lot of fortunate experiences, but growing up in the church, my brother, we
Hmm.
had a lot of great older brothers, older sisters,
Hmm.
mentors. And during that time, I felt like we were getting so much,
Hmm.
and right when I had the opportunity to teach those kids,
Hmm.
in that summer program with, some of the most underprivileged kids, like they were just learning from scratch. I just recall like, I had so many people help me,
Mm.
that mentor me that for no reason, they just were there, whether
Yeah.
it was in church or other situations.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my opportunity. I truly felt like, you want to give back always,
Mm.
but that's when I kind of felt like, okay, I have a really good chance right now to do something for somebody else where you think back and you're like, wow, there's so many things that have happened to me in such a positive way. Like and this is just how I felt, but it just felt like, okay, this is a really good opportunity to help them.
That's
When that
incredible.
hit,
Hmm.
you know, I just felt like I was doing the right thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Wow, that's awesome.
yeah,
I wanted to ask you, David, I'm so into your story that I keep forgetting all of the other things I wanted to ask. But
sure,
so if you want to be a teacher
sure.
and you decide that in college, what does
hmm
that program look like? Does it differ from university to university, or do
hmm
you happen to know that information? Like,
Yeah, so, I graduated my undergrad in 206,
uh,
oh 06, and I immediately went to grad school just to kind of get another degree. But at that time, if you were pursuing, in the path of education,
mhm.
you had the opportunity to student teach, and, you took specific type courses on whether it was, how to teach and just curriculum and what type of teaching practices there are, you could pursue
Okay,
that and you would be able to finish within, just 120 credit hours for 4 years, if you were
okay,
going full time. But I just remember, I had a couple friends that kind of transitioned midway. And yeah, I mean, it's going to extend your collegiate time, but you're looking at a year and a half
hmm,
of,
hmm,
just getting those credit hours full time to take those classes, but then also taking those certification tests at the end. And right now in
okay,
Georgia, I know that I have to do it every 3 to 5 years, depending on the course, but you're looking at the GACE, and that specifically tests, your content area. So you
okay.
have to obviously be strong in what you're teaching, but in the sense of keeping up with your skill set, just like any other job.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And at what point do you take that certification after you graduate? Do you know?
It'll be right there within the last semester.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. Is that something that's kind of rigorous or do you remember?
So I have to get, recertified and whatnot, but
Uh-huh.
I would say honestly no.
Okay.
And, you could go both ways. Like you want the person teaching you, right, in the classroom setting to be like stellar, right? You don't want to
Right.
learn from somebody that doesn't know their stuff, but at the same time, um, I guess, a lot of factors go into it in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that there's a need for teachers in
I see.
education. So if you were to raise the standard of those certification tests,
Mm-hmm.
there wouldn't be as many teachers. So I can see both sides of it, but personally speaking, I feel like the assessments for certification, they're
They're not.
not that difficult. So
Okay.
in comparatively with other professions, I would say so.
Yeah, that's good to know.
hmm
You mentioned you went to grad school. Is that
hmm
necessary, or you just decided to do that, or?
I did for two reasons. Number one, I focused in on math education. So,
Okay.
you know, for me it was middle school education when I had graduated because again, like, I had you can either go into secondary with high school or
Mm-hmm.
you could go into early education within the elementary. I ended up going middle just in the sense of I felt like that was going to be super challenging
Mm-hmm.
with that age group and I enjoyed my time. It's just at that point I kind of selected one that I felt like, okay, this might be the most beneficial for me. I went to grad school for two. Number one, it's a substantial salary increase.
Oh, it
Number one,
is.
it is. I
Okay,
mean,
that's good to know.
comparatively to what you would get without it.
No, I would
Um,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah. And then secondly, it is, it does kind of really, narrow in and teach specifically to what you're thinking about.
Okay.
So even right now, I applied because, we've got a little bit more time
Mm-hmm.
during this time to go to grad school again, just for the sake that
Mm.
we don't know how the, next school year is going to look like. So if I did have more time, I'm just interested in improving my craft, right?
Wow.
So I think it's just a matter of if I have those opportunities and if you are going to get, for me, I'm thankful that, the school I teach at, they're going to be able to, you know, help with financially with going
Yes.
to grad school again.
Oh,
I think
wow.
those are good things just to continually like grow. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like if I'm going to have that chance, I'd like to do that.
definitely.
Mhm.
So do you think going to grad school was helpful in getting the job that you wanted at the school that you wanted?
I would say absolutely yes. I
Okay.
think that um, for two reasons. Number one, I think that when you go into grad school directly, you get a little bit older, and when you go into that area of study in grad school, everybody there is going to be older
Hmm.
educators in a
Hmm.
sense,
Okay.
so you're really taking in a lot of good stuff, right? So
Yes.
I felt like my experience in grad school, I was learning from experienced teachers and I was learning from professors that knew like, okay, these people, they're not just trying to graduate college, but they
Mm.
came back for additional schooling because they're trying to get better. So for me, I felt like, okay, this was such a great experience.
Yeah,
And
that
that's what
sounds awesome.
it
I'm
is. I
like,
mean,
can
but
I
at the same
go?
but I work in a school, so I just love the school atmosphere in the sense
Okay.
like I want to be fed. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So
Yeah.
if I get that chance, yeah, I definitely want to take it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So David, can you tell me what it's like being a male teacher? Because I know
sure,
I don't want to, like say, no, I'm going to be honest.
sure,
Growing up, I didn't have a lot of male teachers in my life.
sure.
And I remember the few that were there, and they did make a big impact on a lot of people, I feel like. Because, it's
Sure.
just, if I'm honest, it's different. It's
It
different
is. Yeah.
having a male figure in your life, especially in the school and in the education system. So, what is that like for you, and how has that been in the last 13 years?
It's been really positive in the sense that, you know, I get to work with young males,
Mm-hmm.
young male students
Mm-hmm.
that I can relate to. And I feel like once you kind of make that connection with, a young male student and you build that trust,
Mm-hmm.
something, they're going to not only learn from you, but there are a lot of things, a lot of positive things can happen.
Mm.
I think about some of the, male students that I've had that, whether they struggled academically or they had, a really tough home life, or they were going through some sort of, you could tell, they're coming in a class, they don't
Mm.
want to be there. There's something going on, and I'm not gonna probe and just kind of, try to get it out of them, but I know that's like, it's a really good opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Like something's going on. And I feel like being a male teacher, and I still feel like I'm relatively young to where I can kind of relate to those boys to
Yeah.
where, I want to help you. And I feel
Hmm.
like after, some opportunities and some, talks, they do take on that trust in the sense that, they know that I'm here for them.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
not only am I teaching you in the classroom, like, what I'm demanding from you, but more than that, even after class or whatnot,
Hmm.
if something looks like it's bothering you, what's going on?
Hmm.
That step into it, I feel like that makes the job worthwhile more than anything.
Yeah.
So being a male, so in that sense, being a male teacher is amazing. Now,
Mm.
thankfully, like, the team that I teach with in the seventh grade, it's half male and half female.
Oh, wow.
So
That's great.
yeah, it is great. Any female issues with school, I don't even, it's not my concern. That's not my
Right.
concern.
Right.
But,
Right.
I teach with, you know, a, one of the teachers I teach with, he's an older gentleman. Um, and the other teacher I teach with, um, it's just not really his personality in the sense, like, he's a great guy and we get along really well. But, I would say that, my heart at this point and why I've been teaching for 13 years, it's to connect with young people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
in that sense, that opportunity for me, when presented, I have no problem, and I love just like sitting down and just wondering like what's going on.
Yeah.
I know,
Wow.
like, and I know if something's bothering you, the best way at their age, you just got to get it out, and
Hmm.
they got to know somebody else outside of maybe your circle of friends or whatnot. Like, I'm here for you. Like,
Yeah,
this is a safe
definitely.
place. I think that's super important. So
Definitely.
that's what makes being the male teacher for me just it's just a privilege. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah.
day to hear these kids, and I only see them for like 10 months, and that's the
That's
tough
true.
part.
That's true.
And I
Yeah.
see them
And you
for
see
10,
them more than the parents do, probably.
during the school year
Honestly.
for sure, because they'll send me emails. I'll get emails from parents just kind of like, how's he doing and things like
Mm.
that, and just they want to make sure because we see them, and
Yes.
I coach quite a bit at school, so there's a lot of months throughout the year where I see a lot of these boys
Hmm.
after school for at least 2 hours. You know
Wow.
what I mean? So in the different sense, like, they know I'm committed to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if they know
Yeah.
that I'm committed in that sense, like that, I'm fortunate. That's just
Hmm.
fortunate for me.
Hmm.
So
Um, I'd like to ask you,
yeah,
sorry, to move on from this topic. I'd like to
sure.
ask, what does your day to day look like? Like, I know teachers probably have some sort of planning that has to
Hmm.
go into their curriculum and things like that. How much planning do you have to do in advance
Yeah,
before you teach?
that's a great question. So planning is it takes a really it takes a lot of time. I
Mm.
feel like you want the lessons to be super smooth every day, and you want them to I have 75-minute classes 3 days a week, and
Yes,
that
that's
is
long.
that is
Okay.
and honestly, that is it's not a lot. It's
Mm.
really not a lot. So when you really calculate it towards the end of the year, the time with them to teach them so much material is we don't have a lot of time. So
I
my
see.
point is, planning is the most important time for me,
Mm.
because at this point in the game, like, it has to be like from the second they walk in, from that bell to the end of the class, it has to be like so regimented and so meaningful, you know? So with that said, yeah, a lot of time is committed to planning. A lot of my planning is done in the morning,
Okay.
because I don't take work home. So for me, right when I get home, and part of it is, I coach majority of the time of the year. So when I
Okay.
get home, it's already like between 6:30 and 7, and then that's dinner, shower, read, and bed.
Yeah.
And then you got to do it again. Um, so, for me, my day to day, one of the best pieces of advice that I got, um, and this was early in my just teaching career, was from one of the coaches at my school. And when I signed my contract, I said that I was going to coach.
Mm.
So, coaching football, and then at that time I was coaching basketball, and then I
Okay.
was coaching golf as well. So. You
So
know,
fun. Oh my gosh,
it
that's so
is. It
cool.
was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of. I mean, time commitment is it was ridiculous. You know,
Yes.
so um, after about 4 years of doing that, you know, in June and July, yes, the we get the time off in the sense of just kind of prepping for the new school year. But you know, during those months of teaching and coaching, like it was, I didn't see Jennifer a lot during the school week because I was so committed to the school, which you know that's what I signed up for. You know,
Mm,
so one of the coaches told me like you got to take care of yourself first because I was telling him, man, I was like, how have you been doing this for 30 years?
yeah.
You know, you talk to people that have been doing it for so long, and he says you got to take care of yourself first.
Mm,
So I kind of fell off the wagon, um, just kind of working out and just really being in a good place personally.
okay.
So with that, you know, I started committing time to wake up super early in the morning,
Mm,
and I started going early in the morning to the gym. You know, so even yeah, for the last yeah, almost 7 years now.
hmm.
I wake up super early. I go to the gym, and then I'll get into my classroom after taking a shower. I get to my classroom about 6. So at 6 o'clock, um, that's when I start really prepping for the day because my mind is like super right.
That's
You know what I mean?
crazy.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
was. You know, when people say it takes like 21 days or a month to make something a habit,
Hmm.
that is no joke. I
Yeah.
mean, when you and it's it's tough leaving my family in the morning like that,
Yeah.
but I do the nightly duties, I guess, you
Yes.
know, within
Yes.
my family. So that's the thankfully, you know, Jennifer's just so kind to be able to do that in the morning. Like she'll do the carpool and take him to school. That way I can go to the gym and then take care of that. But the planning happens in the morning. That way, you know, my first students come in at 7 a.m. And 7 a.m. is when I have like math tutorials. So every
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
morning, even you know, out of the 91 students that I teach, you know, there's a need in terms of you know math help
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it just kind of you know with math you're just constantly learning new things.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you're absent or you know, Mr. Song, I had no idea what you taught yesterday. They're there the next
Gosh.
morning worried because they know like on the calendar, you know, there's a test coming or something, or you know, their parents email me and they're like, okay, they had no idea how to do the homework. They need to see you tomorrow morning. I'm like, absolutely, I'm there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just the reality. Like 7 a.m., you have kids, and
Yes.
then 8 a.m., the bell rings, and then you're ready for homeroom to where, you know, the school day from 8 a.m. to you're looking at 3:30,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then from 3:30 to about 5:30, most of them have, you know, extracurricular activities, you know, so that
Oh my
world, I feel
gosh.
like, you know, school wise, um, I love, you know what I'm saying? I love that school life. Like that's just ingrained in my, you know, routine and what I do
Sure.
during the school
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
But it's not meant for everybody. And as many years as I've taught there, you know, I've taught with a lot of great people, amazing people, you know, that were passionate about kids and passionate about, you know, their subject area and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
you're looking at, you know, the time commitment and just the passion for it. It's got to be like so rooted in you that it's just what it is.
No, yeah. I mean, you're talking and you're sharing about having to prioritize your family life and your
Right.
school life and all these things. And all I can think is back to when I was in school. And, I'm
Yeah.
thinking about those students that you said, they missed a day and they have to come in to get
Right.
tutoring or help. And math
Right.
was not my strong subject. So I'm thinking about those times I went in
Right.
and how ungrateful I was.
Hey,
And
I know
like,
that. It's okay.
and,
That's
and
okay.
like, it is, I mean, like, from what I'm hearing, you really like this has got to be a calling, like because you've really got to be committed to this if you want to be good at it,
Right.
right? Like, or like, to really invest into these students and
Right.
know that your teacher cares about you. You have to feel it, and I'm sure your students feel it. David, just from hearing you talk and yeah, but thank you.
No, sure.
I'm like,
No, no,
wow,
no.
like, yeah.
You know, like I said, I've been the fortunate one in the sense that,
Mm, yes.
you know, getting a job at this school, number one, I feel very fortunate about. Number two, um, you know, you're very fortunate with, you know, people around you that are so passionate about what you also do.
Mm.
So the bar is always like raised really high.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
just when you work in an environment where you can also extend that same standard of how you want things to go, but then when you're surrounded by people that also are raising that bar daily, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That just makes things super just meaningful, and
Yeah.
I think teaching definitely has that fulfillment. It
Mhm.
has for me.
Mhm.
So, for me, even after 13 years, um, I feel like I have so much to learn. There's just too much out there to be better
Mhm.
within this profession. Having the opportunity with young kids in front of them to just guide them. But yeah, I mean, I'm far from even thinking that I'm good at it. It's just a matter that I think just the continual, strive to be better has helped me for
Yeah, that's
sure.
incredible. It's incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking about a lot of the good stuff, but I'm
sure.
curious to know, like,
Yeah,
what does a bad day for a teacher look like?
sure.
Have you had bad days? Can you
Oh,
tell us a little
absolutely.
bit?
I have, and I feel like just like anything else, the difficult and challenging things just kind of make you better. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And thankfully, the sun's gonna rise the next day. So
yeah.
whether it's, I've had a lot of conversations with students that have not gone well, and
Mhm.
partly, that's just my human side. Like I need to be a little bit more patient. So kids are going to be kids,
Of
and I
course.
hear people saying like it's a different generation, and I do agree that, this is a different generation, but I feel like it's a more difficult generation just within the sense that they have so much within their fingertips and that they're
Mm,
exposed to. And I honestly feel like it's not their fault.
mhm.
It's just the way the world is right now within these years. And they say things and you're like, surprised. They're like, oh my God, how are you saying stuff when you're only like 13, 14?
Right.
It's not their fault.
Mhm.
And we get the responsibility of teaching them like what's right and what's wrong
Yeah.
and what they need to know.
Yeah.
Um, so I say like, students are going to be challenging at times for sure. I'm
Mm.
definitely going to, you're going to have challenging students that are going to challenge you, your patience, and your desire, like if you want to keep doing this,
Mm.
but at the same time, it's all perspective in the sense that number one, you only see them for 10 months, and when you start out, you're gonna see yourself in September. You're like, I have to work with this until May,
Yeah.
and when is Thanksgiving break and Christmas break? But the reality is, um, the days may seem long, but the years go by,
Yes.
very fast. They
Yeah.
do. So kids are challenging. The other thing I would say is, you know, teaching in a private school where, the tuition is expensive, the expectation is very high. You're going to have parents that challenge a
Mm.
lot of things that you do, and in the sense of, you know, how you teach, what you teach, how you assess, what
Okay.
kind of preparation are you putting my student to? Because every parent wants the best for their kids.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think those hard conversations that you have with parents, in the sense like, this is where your student is really needing assistance and I need your help. That team effort with
Yeah.
parents, those are challenging conversations
Yes, I
because,
can even
and
imagine.
the reality is, first of all, they may not want to hear it, but the next steps that are following, they know are challenging.
Mm.
And that's kind of sometimes a resistance. Now, I'm not saying I'm always right, but the fact is that there are certain, to me, in terms of what I see in my classroom, like not even expectation wise, but this is what you want to grow into being in terms of like an adult,
Mm.
right? Just in terms of respect, in terms of how you speak and how you are prepared on
Mm.
a daily basis. And these are conversations. And, one of the challenging conversations I have with parents a lot is, I want to give my student the opportunity to grow. I
Mm.
feel like they're at the age now, whether they're 13, 14, or 15, like they need to learn from their mistakes and they need to grow.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with that statement when I speak to parents.
Mm.
But the fact is that some of them need still direction and that building of routine and the constant repetition to
Mhm.
become muscle memory. So if
Okay.
they're forgetting things on a daily basis, so these are the conversations that sometimes you're not going to like hearing the responses from a lot of parents, and
Yeah,
you're
it's
not going to
tough.
like,
Hmm.
you're not going to like, this, the reality. I make my, assessments in my class. I make it difficult, and the reason why I make it difficult is because I want everything else to be easy. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
next year should be easier in the sense, right? So that, and next year's
Oh, so
not going to be
teachers
easy.
really do that, huh?
No,
I'm just kidding.
absolutely. And the teacher that I teach with, who teaches in eighth grade,
Uh-huh.
he is even more difficult than me.
Oh
I mean, this
man.
guy is just, and we're very close, but
Hmm.
that's just kind of the continuation,
Okay.
So the point is, a lot of conversations are very difficult, and you
Hmm.
question, you're like, where, like, your heart, like, am I doing things the right way? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, is my
Yeah.
approach? And I would say you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times when I felt like, okay, I could easily go this way, or am I going to truly like stick to what I believe and go with this?
Mm.
And it's helped me more to go with what I truly believe in, and I really feel like it's going to be beneficial. And I know those conversations are hard. They're actually very difficult to where, you feel like your back's against the wall, even
Mm.
to the point of like, again, a lot of these parents, they got, there's a lot of um, influence.
Of
You know what I'm
course.
saying?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's public or private.
Hmm.
They are the ones that are, it's their children, it's their treasures
Yeah.
that they're sending to school, and it's a team effort. So those are the challenging parts,
Yeah.
with making sure everybody's on the same page,
Hmm.
and just
Hmm.
knowing that um, we're in the best interest of all these students and yours as well.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I would say the last thing I'll say in terms of challenging is just the age I'm teaching with, you know, I feel like there's just a lot of status that a lot of kids seek. Like I'm better than you. This is,
Mm.
and whether it's bullying or things like that, just the realization that this is not how the real world works later on in terms of how you approach things. Like I feel like the challenging things about a school that I'm realizing is just making sure that kids just know what reality is, and
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of just their maturation process,
Wow.
So if anybody was going to think about um, teaching in that sense, just really instilling like, good solid principles that you're going to be living
Yeah.
by, because there's just a lot of things that you're going to have to deal with that I feel like are sensitive, but you just got to handle it the right way, you
I
know?
mean, personally, for me, as I'm hearing you, I'm like, I have two children of my own,
Sure,
and I just realized that in some sense, the teacher that they're going to see every day is in some ways like a third parent, like
sure.
the way they're impacting and influencing their lives. So I can imagine, those conversations with parents must be extremely difficult if I put myself in their shoes and in your shoes as well. I mean, at times it must be really frustrating too because you want what's best for them. They want
Sure.
what's best for them. And I'm
Right.
sure sometimes it can be conflicting, right?
At times it can, but I think
Yeah.
that, I think the experience within the years that I've had, when you have, I just know that in the beginning of the year, you have that um, kind of that parent night where all the parents come,
Mm-hmm.
and I give my spiel. And, I tell them, like, number one, I care about your kid. I
Mm,
think that is so important for them to know. Like, this is not just another child that, I teach, that I'm kind of just passing on forward,
right.
because it's part of my job. But genuinely, like, your kid, I'm going to remember, and I
Mm-hmm.
care about them. And if they know that, because I truly mean that,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
they know that,
Mm-hmm.
then you've already like set that commitment to
Yeah,
where they know, okay, this guy, he's going to really take care of my kid. And I
definitely.
think every
Yes.
conversation that follows that is naturally going to make sense a little bit more. So just like anything else, those first impressions, and I just feel like the first conversation and just feeling that you have within another person
Yeah.
is so crucial.
Yeah.
because that's kind of what you left with. And for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, some of those parents I may not talk to for a couple of weeks or months,
Yeah.
and some parents I'll talk to on a weekly basis,
Okay.
but um, if you set the precedence really early and they just know, like, I'm here for you, I'm here for
Mm-hmm.
your kid, that's it. That is why I'm here. That's all that matters. Then, I think that everything else kind of takes care of itself in the sense of expectation, and this is why it's done this way,
Yeah,
So
definitely.
if you ever
So
feel like,
important. So important.
if, so I would say if you're not feeling that from from like a teacher or whatnot, that's where some good conversations can happen, right?
I
So,
see. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, David, thank you so much for sharing your passion and education.
sure.
I just, before we end our time together, I was
Yeah.
wondering if you had any advice for people, young people that are thinking about a future in teaching or education.
Hmm.
Anything you want to share with us?
Absolutely. Thank you. Um, I feel like just like anything else, it's a commitment to young people.
Mm,
Like you have to, I would say you want to definitely, have some experiences, whatever that may be. You could go, coach some kind of extracurricular activity, or just some kind of activity to where you're going to be around young people. And
mm,
if you feel like that's a great feeling for you, I would pursue that,
yeah.
because being in the environment in a school and teaching, the difference that you can make is so amazing that it's going to fulfill itself within the first day. And yeah, obviously, just like anything else, there are some days that are going to be so challenging
Mm,
to where you're like, okay, is this even worth the money? Is this even worth my stress?
right.
You know what I mean? You're going to ask yourself these questions a lot. But one thing that I know for sure is that, whatever you do, if you're working towards, the mission,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever that mission is,
Mm-hmm.
if you're working towards that mission itself, then nothing else really matters,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to keep driving you. So if that mission is calling you to go teach, hit me up, and if you need anything, I can help you out, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, if you feel like, I would say pursue it, because
Mm,
there's not a lot to lose. You're going to have some amazing opportunities with young people, and I assure you that when they come back and they tell you, like, thank you, or they say, like, wow, this, you made this difference, that to me is what life's about: giving to other people, not expecting something like that in return.
yeah, awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Thank you so much, David, for not just this time in this interview, but really for everything that you do for the future of future generations. I'm so
Right.
grateful. I'm in the back of my mind, honestly, I'm like, so can my kids go to your school?
Sure. Call me up.
But thanks so much for listening, guys. Until next time, bye.
Bye bye.